Hello and welcome everyone to another episode of Cinema's Photography. I am your friendly neighborhood hookahologist, and joining me here today is absolutely no one. Is the microphone on this time? Yes, it is. So this is the second time I'm recording this podcast because I forgot to turn on the microphone. So I really spent like 45 minutes talking to myself, and kind of for practice, really. So way to go, Tommy. So what are we talking about today? If you haven't guessed it by now, we're talking about the season premiere, Season 2, Episode 1 of The Mandalorian, The Marshal. Now this show is phenomenal. I love it to death. Alright, so we are smoking out of the Union Hookah. We have the Capuchon, smoking some foreplay on peach, because remember people, you can't have foreplay without peaches. And our unofficial sponsor today is Tea Time, per usual. Today we are drinking a honey lemon tea prepared by the homies, and it is great. Well, technically joining me are my two cats, Artemis and Aries. You'll see them running around because they don't know how to take a break. So, what can I say about this episode? Oh my god, I was so pumped. I've been waiting for this to come back all year long, and now that it's finally here, I am excited. So, let's start by saying, fantastic first episode. Great way to start the season off. And then we have to go back to Tatooine, where we're going to find Boba Fett's armor. More about that in a minute. So, let's just recap. Now, the child, or Baby Yoda, whichever one you prefer, is now with Mando. He is technically a foundling. For those who don't know what a foundling is, it is an orphan brought into the Mandalorian lifestyle. Because being Mandalorian isn't a race, it is a creed that you take to become part of this elite warrior race, for the most part. Mandalorians are like Saiyans from Dragon Ball Z. That's all I'm going to say. Right? I firmly believe that. So, we have Pedro Pascal rejoining us as Mando, and we have a couple different people playing some amazing roles in this show. So let's get started. So where have we left off? Now it's probably just a couple weeks after, Mando's left to find Baby Yoda's family. So he is now finding a society of wizards. Wizards referring to as Jedi because, let's face it, they're space wizards. So, sorry guys, I'm a little peeved at myself for not turning on the microphone and having to go over this again, but mistakes happen. So we now see that Mando is going to find out what's going on and how to find Baby Yoda's people. So Mando is now going into pretty much a fight club with two Gamorrean guards. For those who don't know what Gamorrean guards are, the Gamorreans were the hog-like aliens that guarded Jabba in Jabba's palace. So he's watching a fight and trying to figure this out, and he's trying to find another Mandalorian. His idea is he's going to find more Mandalorians to kind of help him out with finding Baby Yoda's people. Right? Because the Mandalorians have a very interesting history with Jedi. Those two never really got along. There was only one Mandalorian, Mandalore the Great, who was the only Mandalorian to be accepted into the Jedi Order. So we go loosely into that, but that's more of the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels series, where they take a more deep dive. If you want to know more about that, leave me in the comment section below. Maybe we can do that for another podcast. But man, I was excited for this series. So Mando finds out that there was only one Mandalorian, which this gangster really knows, and they are the only reason he gets the information is because he kind of beats it out of him, or scares him half to death, because this gangster wants Beskar steel. Beskar steel is the most rarest and strongest metal in the Star Wars universe, right? So it is very valuable. The price of Beskar has gone up since it's been pretty much gone for the most part. Only Mandalorians have it. So he has to go back to Tatooine. He didn't even know that there was a Mandalorian on Tatooine, and everyone knows the only Mandalorian on Tatooine that we know of, and who is rumored to be dead, is Boba Fett. So it's very interesting to see that they have to go back to Tatooine to kind of figure this out. So Mando goes to Tatooine and starts a whole new adventure. What I do like about this is that they do really well with practical effects and not to use too much CGI like they did in the prequels. So that's what I really do love about this series. Very Western, very gritty, and it's very practical. Done with a lot of practical effects, more to CGI effects. They use CGI when necessary, but it's still really nice to see. So Mando goes back to Mos Eisley. And Mos Eisley, we only know about 2 settlements on Mos Eisley. We're going to be introduced to a third today. So we have Mos Espas, Mos Eisley, and now Mos Pelgo. A forgotten settlement and not well known on the map of Tatooine. So we are introduced to our first real Easter egg and cameo. If you remember R5, the first Lars family droid before he self-destructs when Owen Lars tries to purchase him, right? So we see a return of R5, and it's actually really funny to see, right? Because you have to be a real keen eye to notice that kind of thing. I had a feeling it was him, and then I, did a little bit of research, and it is the same R5 unit, so it's actually really cool, right? Before R2 became the droid of Luke Skywalker. Could you imagine R5 going on this adventure with C-3PO instead of R2-D2? I guess the story wouldn't progress too well without him, but still, I think that would be a very interesting thing to see. So we're now introduced to, you see Mando get a speeder because he couldn't take the Laser Crest because it would make too much noise and they would see him coming a mile away and no one would talk to him. So he takes the speeder that he got from the previous time he was out there on Tatooine down to Mos Pelgo. And everyone's kind of, as he rides in, everyone's kind of like nervous to see because no one's ever seen a Mandalorian. They only hear stories about how everything was done back then. So it was very interesting to see how other people interact with Mandalorians around. So Mando goes into the bar, talks to the barkeep, and he's like, hey, I'm looking for a Mandalorian. And this was actually kind of funny. He's like, what does he look like? Mando, looking at him, be like, well, he'll look exactly like me. He's like, oh, the Marshal. The Marshal wears Mandalorian armor. And that's when we're introduced to Timothy Offset's character of Cobb Vanth. So if you're not familiar with Cobb Vanth, he's actually he's a character that was written in the Star Wars Aftermath novels. So if you want to know more about him, I suggest reading Aftermath, and he'll be introduced there. So Timothy Offset, Cobb Vanth, he is now, walking into the bar, and he's like, you know what? Get me a drink for me and my buddy here. So he grabs 2 glasses, he grabs a bottle of, I forgot what they called it, but he walks over to sit down and have a chat with him. Mando, assuming he is a Mandalorian, talks to him like a Mandalorian. He's like, well, I'm not Mandalorian. I bought this off some Jawas. You're probably going to want it back, right? You're probably not too happy with me wearing it. And he's not. And it's so interesting to see, and what I think what has been a real challenge with the Mandalorian is the fact that we as people see other people's interactions and their facial expressions to kind of connect with these characters we see on screen. Mando has never taken his helmet off except for in front of IG-11, which is a non-living being. And Mando even states that once I take my helmet off in front of a human or in front of a living being, I cannot put it back on. Right? So he refuses to take off his helmet, except for the one time he really needed to. So he's talking like, well, you're gonna take off that armor, or I'm gonna take it off for you. And Cobb's looking at Baby Yoda, and he's like, you're gonna do this in front of the kid? And Mando replies, it's such a badass way to. He has seen worse. I thought that was so boss. I was like, how are you gonna say that to the Mandalorian? Like, really, bro? You're gonna try to pick a fight with that guy? You know how many people he's killed, right? You hear the stories. So I thought that was actually really cool and really, really kind of funny. Like, their interaction between each other is actually super, super nice. So before they can actually fight, we hear a rumbling around. So that's a little dramatic, but if you know me, I'm a little dramatic. So we find out that a dune dragon has been terrorizing Mos Pelgo. And a dune dragon is a very scary thing. It shoots acid. It's a very skeleton-like creature. It's very, very terrifying. And we actually see a skeleton of a Dune Dragon in, I think, A New Hope, where C-3PO is wandering the desert and you see a skeleton of dead Dune Dragon. So that was actually really cool to see one actually there. So we're introduced there, and now Cobb is talking about, like, tell you what, I'll make you a deal. You help me kill this thing, I'll give you the armor. And Mando's like, you got a deal. So they're going to find out where this thing is and how they're going to kill it. Right? So this is where our next big Easter egg, and probably the best Easter egg I seen in this show so far, is that Mando's riding on a speeder and Cobb is riding a speeder made out of, wait for it, Anakin Skywalker's turbine from his pod racer. Oh my god, I tripped out so hard. I was geeking out 100% when I saw that. I'm like, dude, that's legit. Too legit to quit. Mando is riding around with Anakin Skywalker, technically, and it was so cool. I love that little Easter egg. Super dope. So they're going to figure out where to find the dragon, and then they come across a tribe of Tusken Raiders. And this is very interesting. Mando can speak Tusken Raider, and it's a real interesting language. Like, I really wish I had the patience to kind of learn this, because it's a lot of grunting and a lot of kind of talk, and it's very interesting to see, because all you see is the Tusken Raiders go like, I'm probably butchering that, but you get what I mean, right? So they're now figuring out they have allies to kill this thing, and the Tusken Raiders hate it just as much, because it's been terrorizing them, eating their banthas, killing their people, and they've studied it for years, trying to figure out how it works, how it eats, how it sleeps, and how they're going to be able to kill it. So this is a very interesting scene, and you see how sensitive the Tusken Raider culture is. I say that because as they're driving by, Cobb explains how he was able to get Boba Fett's armor. So this is where it kind of ties into episode 6 a little bit too. So Cobb explains, like, well, Mos Pelgo was after the Empire left and we saw the explosion of the second Death Star, right? So the Imperials were leaving, everyone was kind of rejoicing, Mos Eisley was shooting off blasters, and everyone was having fun, but they didn't have peace for very long. Probably lasted all 5 minutes, probably. You see a band of miners kind of take over the town and start opening fire in the bar. Cobb escapes and steals what he thought was water, but really was a case full of crystals. Mining crystals that he didn't even realize. So he was wandering the desert for a couple days where he was rescued by a group of Jawas. Right? Not the same group of Jawas that sold R5 and C-3PO, because, well, they were all killed. So it's a new set of Jawas, and they found Boba Fett's armor. And which is very interesting. I want to know how Boba Fett actually left his armor. Right? You'd think he would keep it with him. But he didn't. So Cobb opened it up, and as he was drinking water, he opened up the thing for crystals, and he's like, well, I'm going to sell this. I need to figure out how to help my people. Right? And this is very interesting, because you see Boba Fett's armor just kind of plastered there. He's like, I want that. That is what I want. I actually have the scene right now. Actually, I'm probably going to play a little bit of how intimidating Cobb was with this. And Cobb looks so funny in that armor. I am telling you, he looks like the Little League guy who is too tall for the team and looks like he has a family in the bleachers. So obviously the armor doesn't fit him, because it was meant to fit Boba Fett. Right? Get a visual up there for you guys probably, if I remember. But he looks super funny in that armor. So as he's explaining what happens, he goes back to Mos Pelgo, and he's now in the bar, and everyone's looking really intimidated, because you see Beskar armor and you see a Mandalorian or someone wearing that armor, you know that they're badass, right? You are scared, because you know that they're there to either kill you or they're just passing through. Right, so obviously he's going to liberate the town. So what he does and it is so badass to see Boba Fett's arm, just to see anything Boba Fett related. When I was growing up, I thought Boba Fett was the most coolest character next to Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. So it was real fun to see. So he's now like fully used to using all of Boba's stuff. So they're all now looking at him. He pulls out his gun, starts shooting, and everyone's like shooting back at him. And you can see that the Beskar armor is just like beep, 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 not phasing him. Right? So Beskar steel is, like I said, the strongest metal in Star Wars. So to see that kind of happen, oh hey Artemis, how you doing, babe? My cat wants to not hang out with me. Right? So, and they're all escaping. The thugs are leaving, and Boba Fett just Cobb puts on the little tracker, like ding, 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 locks the missile on them, and then pew, blows them up. Right? And now he's the marshal or the protector of Los Pelgo. So it was actually really fun to see. Right? To see all that kind of happen. So we get a little bit of a backstory of how Cobb got the armor. Right, and I always wondered how he got out of the Sarlacc pit. I hope they explain that in the next episode or one of the episodes coming. Right, so now the Tusken Raiders are kind of talking with Mando and Cobb about what they know about the dragon so far. And Cobb is handed this, what looks to be a rotten pumpkin, and he stabs it, and he's like, what am I supposed to do with this? He's like, you're supposed to drink it. He's like, I'm not drinking this is disgusting. And the Tusken Raiders are very offended. Like, first you take our water, now you're gonna disrespect us by not drinking our drink, which is very common, right? Because if you refuse like a drink or food from another person's household or something, if you're visiting, it's viewed as a term of disrespect, and that's how the Tusken Raiders are taking it. He's like, well, I was there. He's like, no, we didn't take your water. We defended it from you, blah, blah, blah. So it's like a pointing fingers kind of thing, and they're like, no. This is not what it's like. So the next day it kind of happens. Mando kind of diffuses the situation, like uses his flamethrower, and tells him like, "Look, we got a job to do. Stop it, both of you." So they now see where the Dune Dragon is hiding or sleeping. The Dune Dragon is actually living inside of an empty Sarlacc pit, and this is where one of the funniest kind of quips come from. Be like, I've never heard of an empty Sarlacc pit. And he's like, well, it's empty if something eats it. Right? So it is the dragon who probably spit acid and ate the Sarlacc. Right? So now it lives in its empty shell, which was kind of interesting. So now that we have seen how the dragon kind of eats, the Tusken Raiders explain that it was going to sleep for a while because they figured out its eating and sleeping patterns because of, how well they've been studying it. So they're trying to figure out how they're going to kill it. So the Tusken Raiders have a little mound and kind of created a strategy, and then Mando explains to them in Tusken, and they spread a little bit more, and Cobb's like, what's going on? Like, what are those extras? Like, well, your village is going to be reinforcements. And Cobb's looking at him like, boy, you're crazy. That's not happening. So now Mando and Cobb are going back to the village of Mos Pelgo to try to get everyone else to kind of help out with this plan. So they're not fans of Tusken Raiders, and the Tusken Raiders are not fans of them. So it's like two rival like beehives or anthills like conversion on one spot. Instead of working together, they want to kill each other, right? But Mando explains that, look, you're the marshal of this village. They respect what you have to say. So if you're on board, they're going to be on board with you. So everyone's already not okay with the idea. But Mando explains is that the Tusken Raiders may be raiders and these savages, right? But they are people of their word. And they explain that if you do not attack them, they will leave you alone. As long as you guys don't break the peace, they're not going to break the peace. To kind of calm the tensions. And you can see the tensions kind of rise as the Tuskens come into Mos Pelgo. They're, supplying the explosives to kind of help figure out, because the underbelly of the dragon is its weak point, right? So that's where they're going to attack. So one of the explosives was dropped by a Tusken Raider, and one of the villagers was yelling at him, and then Cobb goes in and they're like, look, it was an accident. Calm down. We're all going to be okay here. So they all start going to to the cave where the dragon's sleeping. Right, so this is where they had a little bit of time to prepare. So they dug a trench, put all the explosives right there. Well, half of the explosives, right? They have some more on a bantha, but Mando and Cobb were just kind of waiting it out and going with the plan. As they're going, they're trying to figure out how they're going to do this. So now everything's set for the big attack. Everyone's ready. So now and you see Tusken Raiders. It looked pretty goddamn medieval. They had like catapults with spears on them and everything. So it was going to be a fight, and it was not going to be a fight where it wasn't going to be easy. Is what I'm trying to say. So we now see. Oh, where the cats? I got distracted. Sorry. Now you see everyone kind of get ready. 3 Tusken Raiders go to try to wake it up, and they just scream into the cave. And for some odd reason, that wakes it up. Like you would think it would be like an explosion or something shooting at it to be more annoying, but the trick is to get the dragon mad to have him come out to where the explosives are. So once the dragon kind of opens its mouth and kind of comes out a little bit, they're now shooting it with all these spears and everything, trying to get it out, and you see that the dragon's trying to go back into the cave, and you see Tusken Raiders trying to pull, but it's not working. Tusken Raiders are flying, some people are there, some people are not, and the villagers are throwing concussion grenades, and trying to get its attention to get it to come out more. And you can see Cobb getting very impatient. You can see him kind of going out, be like, oh, no, not yet. He's like, I'm going to do it, not yet. And then it finally comes out to where the explosives are, right here, and it blows up, right? They set them off. And then it's quiet, super quiet. Everyone's wondering if it worked. Well, it didn't, because why would it? It's never that easy, right? Not in Star Wars. So the dragon is now on top of the mountain range of where it's been staying, spewing acid, like just pretty much creating constant chaos. So Mando and Cobb go up to the top and start getting its attention, start getting it more mad, and it comes back down for the final act. Now, this is where Mando had a plan, and he tells Cobb, "Watch the child," as he grabs the detonator, goes to the other bantha where all the other explosives are, and he's like, get its attention. So Cobb fires his rocket, and it has him coming towards Mando. Mando gets eaten by the dragon. The dragon goes back underground. Then, as he comes back up again, you can see Mando just blasting his way out, flying out of there with his jetpack, and then setting off the explosives. The explosives goes off, and it blows up from the inside. Whoop-de-doo. That's pretty much how it usually goes, right? Oldest trick in the book. Get the monster to eat the explosives and blow it up from the inside, which was pretty clever, granted, but it is something we've all seen before. So Cobb and everyone are celebrating. The Tusken Raiders are taking the meat away for eating. Mando gets a slab, and Baby Yoda's trying to eat it. He's like, "Sorry, buddy, I'm not cooking that just yet." So that's pretty much where it ends, right? And you see Mando take the armor. Everyone's kind of happy, and Mando rides away. But this is where the biggest cameo comes in. Like I said, Tamora Morrison, the actor who played Jango Fett, all the clones in the prequel series, and voiced Boba Fett as a dub in the new remakes of Episode 5 and 6 of Boba Fett. And you just see him watch Mando ride away, and you just see his face, and he looks scarred. Like, he's got a scar right here. Like, he's all bald, right? And he looks like a nomad. Like, he doesn't look like he wants to be a bounty hunter. So I'm very interested to see their interaction come between the next episode. I'm assuming the next episode is what we're finally gonna see Boba Fett interact with him, and maybe even go with him on his adventure to kind of figure it out and teach him the ways of the Mandalorian culture a little bit more, because Boba Fett is a Mandalorian, or not, depending on your take of what you take in the Clone Wars. So that was actually really interesting to see. I'm actually really interested to see how they're going to introduce Boba Fett. into this, because we kind of got a tease in the last time he was there, and he may have killed the target that Mando was going after in that episode. But nonetheless, we are going to see Boba Fett return into Star Wars canon, and I am more than happy to see it. I love Boba Fett, so it's going to be very interesting to see how they interact now, right? Are there any downsides to this episode? Yeah, a little bit, because I'm not a fan of one-shot episodes. Like, we all get them in any TV show. There's just one episode that doesn't really fit with the overall story. It doesn't move the plot forward anywhere. This is one of those episodes I feel kind of hits that, but there's a lot more plus sides. There's a lot of good, Easter eggs for longtime Star Wars fans. Like I said, if there are more, let me know in the comment section below. I want to know what I missed, because I'm going to rewatch it again probably one or two more times, because, like I said, this episode was just a real good way to start off the season, right? So there's that. What do I give it? A 10 out of 10, because it's The Mandalorian, and it is great. But that's all I pretty much have for you guys today. So be sure to find me on Instagram and or Twitter under _hookahologyst. Look for this beautiful face on Facebook under Tommy Rodriguez. And for more podcasts, YouTube videos, and overall fun stuff about hookah, find us on Facebook as well under the Hookahologyst. Until next time, guys, keep smoking.